Hi, I'm Bob Vila. Welcome home again. It's another rainy day in Cambridge, and we're working outside. We're going to show you how to install a beautiful bluestone terrace in the back of this house. Also, a trip to the Frederick Law Olmsted historic site in Brookline, Massachusetts. He was the famous 19th century landscape architect who designed Central Park in New York City. You'll also notice a similarity in color between his house and my house. And then when we're back here in the backyard again, construction of a retaining wall using Allen block. Stick around. It's good to have you home again.
Bob Vila's home again.
The challenging part of a landscape installation is what they call the hardscape, which involves retaining walls, and that's what we're building right here. Let's get together with Mike Nasty, who is from All Island Supply down on Long Island, New York. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
You got a full crew here today. Yeah.
We sure do.
Now, what we're dealing with here, rather than pouring a traditional retaining wall system with concrete, is we're using this product called Allen block, right?
Right. It's an interlocking concrete retaining wall system.
Uh-huh. And so it's technically, you can do a job like this in a day. If you've got a four-man crew, everything has arrived and there's no concrete pouring at all, right? You were just running this this tamping machine here,
right,
on what is essentially the footing for the retaining wall?
Exactly. It's a recycled concrete product that we use for the base to stabilize the ground.
So it's nothing more than crusher run from old sidewalks.
Correct. That's it.
And then you don't have to worry about winter freezing and thawing and
right, because the Allen block system is a flexible system.
Yeah.
It, as the ground heaves and thaws in the freeze-thaw cycles, the block will give and come back into its normal position.
Yeah.
Unlike a concrete retaining wall system, which will crack from the force of the heaving.
And then you got a crack. Have you got
Exactly.
the plan so that we understand
Sure.
what we're doing here?
Sure.
I know we're creating a square retaining wall for what is essentially a secondary level of terrace. Right. Here we go. This is the back, the deck, and the house is back here. And what we're doing is putting in a square retaining wall that will allow us to backfill and create a secondary level before we get down to the actual grade.
That's correct.
Okay. And so there's planting involved here too, right?
Correct. As the steps come down in this area over here, there's going to be two planting areas. One which is going to follow in an L shape over into this direction,
right,
and the same in an L shape over here.
Right, so that you literally don't see too much of the actual retaining wall at all, except perhaps a little bit from the neighbor's side.
Right, this is going to be a practical use retaining wall system. It's really not for the,
It's not an aesthetic thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, let's just watch them put it all together. Now, what kind of material is this you're pouring into the block?
Okay, this is a crushed stone product that we use, and that happens to be one of the local stones, but depending on your location, it could be a number of different products just to have drainage, and it also helps in the locking of the block.
Great. So we've been lucky enough to get Anthony Michael Landscaping from Northport, Long Island to come out and install all the Allen block for us, and it's looking pretty good. Okay, that sure makes quick work out of it. Now, there's no steel reinforcing in any of these pieces, right?
No, that's correct.
And so you just can cut them freely. Well, that's a pretty impressive saw. That goes there, and this fits right in. Now, I was just noticing as we laid this in, there's actually like a dovetail joint here, isn't there?
Correct.
This business right here.
That's right.
And that's one of the keys in keeping this corner
together.
In
fact, we have a corner over here that I could show you how that goes together.
Right. It's nice.
All right, all this is regular dovetail, just like you would woodworking.
So in the casting, it comes out nice and sharp like that.
Right. You just slide
and you slide them into place, and boy, that's not going to move anywhere.
Right.
That's great. Now, this gets backfilled up to this height, which is basically a secondary terrace that we've created as a transition from the wood deck to the big terrace back there.
That's right.
And we were going to have a big planter in the middle as well as the L-shaped planters, but I've changed my mind about the middle. We just want to have the side planting. But then here is where we need to have 3 steps, right?
Correct. It's going to be probably 4 steps in this location right here.
Okay. And they will be bluestone.
Right. They're going to be done in the bluestone, which will be on the top terrace here, as well as the lower terrace.
Okay, but this, this is a very handsome rusticated finish that you end up, which I think is going to look very, very nice with that violet bluestone. All right. Good. We really appreciate your efforts, Mike. It's going to be beautiful.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to have to break for some messages. When we come back, we'll be visiting Frederick Law Olmsted's historic site in Brookline, Massachusetts. Don't go away. We're in the Green Hill Historic District in Brookline, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. Truly one of the most beautiful towns in America. And we're visiting the Frederick Law Olmsted Historic Site, which is now managed by the National Park Service. Olmsted was a landscape architect in the 19th century. You may have not heard of him, but you've certainly heard of Central Park in New York City, and maybe the Emerald Necklace Park System here in Boston, and the Chicago lakefront, and countless other cityscapes that were created by Frederick Law Olmsted and his architectural practice. Let's get together with our friend Lauren Meyer, who is the historical architect here, right?
Historical landscape architect.
Landscape architect, exactly. And although we're here to talk about landscape architecture, there is a beautiful example of early federal period architecture right behind us. Tell me a little bit about the house.
Well, the house was built originally around 1810, and when Olmsted arrived here in 1883, he immediately began making changes, both to the landscape and the structure.
So he bought it from the original family.
That's correct.
And as I understand it, he tripled the size of it and created a landscape architecture practice right here.
That's right. It was really the first full-scale professional landscape architectural office in America.
And I know, because I lived in this neighborhood up until just a few years ago, that this was not just a shrine to landscape architecture, but there was also a treasure trove of original drawings and manuscripts and photographs and records kept here, right?
That's correct. In fact, when the National Park Service arrived in 1980, there were 150,000 plans and drawings that represented the design work on about 5,000 design projects in 45 states.
Amazing.
Nationwide.
Lauren, as I understand it, much of the work that actually goes on here today is preservation of all these documents. Is that right?
That's correct. In fact, the National Park Service is undergoing a comprehensive stabilization program to make the drawing collection available to researchers who are working on Olmsted landscapes nationwide.
Yeah, it's got to be the most important collection of its kind in the country.
I think that's true. The process includes, it's very interesting, it includes surface cleaning, humidification and flattening, and mending using natural materials.
Wonderful. Now let's talk about the landscape that we look at here, because when I think of Victorian landscape design, I think of very clipped and ordered gardens, and here it's kind of like looking at the New England jungle, if you will, this tree growing out of these rocks. What's the story?
Well, this is very typical of Olmsted's work. He planted this hemlock and accentuated the landscape around this natural outcropping of Roxbury pudding stone that you see right here.
Okay, so this tree has been here for a century and
That's
he planted
correct.
it. Did he alter the topography in this area to create this drive?
Yes, this was one of the first major moves that Olmsted did when he arrived. He first moved the entrance from around the corner to this location.
To this side of the house.
That's right.
Yeah.
And filled this area, which had historically had a natural slope to it, to create the drive.
So that's how they created this, this hollow down here as well, right?
That's correct.
I don't mean to offend, but this doesn't look terrific.
Well, what you see is a landscape restoration in process. We have removed a lot of volunteer growth that happened in the last century and are in the process of replacing missing plants, though we do have some of the plants that were here during Olmsted's time.
I notice there's vines running all over the place on top of the stones, etc. Is that something that's typical of late 19th century planting?
Well, certainly of Frederick Law Olmsted's work. He used vines to cover everything. They covered the fence, they covered this terrific outcropping.
Yeah, this
of
is all
Roxbury
Roxbury pudding stone with, is that a euonymus on top?
Yes, it's called Euonymus fortunei radicans, the creeping winter creeper.
Marvelous.
Euonymus.
Now, the really beautiful part of the property is on the other side of the house, I believe.
That's true.
Lauren, is any of the plant material here surviving from Olmsted's day?
Yes, most of what you see here today was here.
What's this, for example?
This is a yew, Taxus cuspidata.
My gosh, we're used to seeing yew bushes in the nursery and you can create hedges with them, but this one's actually a gorgeous tree, isn't it?
Yes.
And this flowering shrub over here?
This is mock orange.
Yes, sure. It's fabulous, so fragrant. And this is a very typical plant used by the Victorians, isn't it?
That's correct, and you can buy it today.
What's this tree overhead?
This is a cucumber magnolia, And this is a tremendous specimen. This is a very historic tree.
It's got to be 50 feet high. It's wonderful. And then you have a path running right through here. What do you call this?
This is a euonymus, also known as burning bush, that you might find at a local nursery, but this is a very old specimen.
So this has probably been here for a century, yeah.
That's true.
And this is magnificent. And what do you call this tree?
This is native mountain laurel. It's Kalmia latifolia.
I'm used to thinking of it as a shrub, and this is actually almost a tree here, isn't it?
Well, they're very old specimens.
But this is something that you can go out and buy today at a home center, right?
That's correct. They're commercially available.
Gosh, this almost looks like a bonsai garden here, doesn't it, Lauren?
This is terrific. This is part of the rock garden, and you can see the native raspberry pudding stone again and this natural moss.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are some of the real important specimens here?
Well, our most important plant on the entire property is this magnificent American elm.
Lauren, the American elm is an endangered species, isn't it?
That's correct. American elms are disappearing from the American landscape because of the Dutch elm disease.
This is a spectacular specimen, though. So this has been here since Frederick Law Olmsted's day.
In fact, it was here when he arrived, and he used it as an organizing principle around which the entire landscape was created.
Now, haven't they created a hybrid or something out of this tree that's resistant to the disease?
Yes, it's called Liberty elm, but we're very interested in the original species, which is Ulmus americana.
Mm-hmm. And so you're propagating it?
That's right. The Arnold Arboretum of Harvard University has propagated this tree so that we can replace it in kind with an exact genetic replacement.
Well, maybe someday we can all get seedlings. Sounds great. Now, the center is open to the public on weekends throughout the year?
That's correct. You can visit the Olmsted National Historic Site on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays year-round, and other times if you call ahead.
On Warren Street in Brookline. Thanks for the tour.
Thank you.
We've got a break for messages. Don't go away. Well, that visit took place a couple of weeks ago when the sun was shining, and things around here are getting very wet. But let's meet Mark Marini from Schumacher Landscape Construction. Hi, Mark.
How you doing, boy?
Well, it's been better, right? This is not the ideal weather for landscape construction, but you've already done all the preliminary work, right?
Yes. Yeah, we removed all the loam from the backyard, about 12 inches or so. We brought back some crusher run gravel as a base material for the bluestone paving.
So how deep is that?
It's 12 inches deep.
So there's 12 inches of crusher run. And then how much stone dust do you put down?
You put down about 1 inch of stone dust as the base for the bluestone paving.
Okay, so you don't want to have more than 1 inch?
Well, you can go to 1.5 inches or so, but you want to keep it a pretty thin layer.
Right. Now the plan is for a rectangular terrace that runs the whole width of the house, but there's a cutout here for some plantings, a square that's 5 by 5, right?
Yes.
And another one down there for a little tree.
That's right.
And you have gotten started here. It looks beautiful.
Well, we got to start on it before the weather, but the bluestone is starting to go in, but we had to stop. The rain is just too much for it right now.
Yeah, when everything gets saturated like this, obviously you cannot do the installation because it wouldn't come out right.
It just doesn't set right.
What kind of bluestone is this? I know it's a lilac color, right?
It's a lilac color. It comes from New York. Usually bluestone is a blue-gray color, but this is a nice change.
It'll be very pleasant against the house when it's finished, but what are we going to do? Are you going to have to break for a day or so?
Yeah, we're going to have to let it dry out for a day, see what happens, and hopefully get back to it in a day or so.
No, thanks, Mark. I know we'll be here to watch. Okay, it's taken 48 hours for the rain to stop and the site to dry out, but you can see just today we've made a lot of progress laying out this area. And before we continue, I wanted to kind of take a close look at what you've done here, because this is the blueprint that the landscape architect gives you, from which you put together a bid on the work, as well as figure out how the work's going to be done. Can you explain what you've done here with all the colors and stuff?
Oh, sure. When we get the plan from the landscape architect, of course, we bring it in the office and we review it. Every corner of the site has to be detailed so that we can plan the project and start at the hardscape in the furthest corner and work our way through this back terrace here.
Yeah, this is the whole back terrace back here. We just walked across over in this direction. We're standing right here now.
And when we're in the office, we'll color up the plan for the foreman in the field, so he can pick out each item of work quickly and easily and identify everything as he goes through the project, so he can plan his work for each day.
And right now we're still in hardscape. We've been delayed by weather. Next week hopefully we'll be putting in beautiful plant specimens. patterns, but right now, let's look at this, because it's what's called a random pattern. Is there some logic to it?
No, only you start on an edge, you work your way in. You just want to watch your joints to make sure you don't have no joints that are too long. You want to watch to make sure you don't get four corners to come together anywhere.
And in some areas it does lay out 4 against 1. You got one stone here with 4 stones up against it.
Right.
Is that just coincidence, or is that?
No, you have to make up some of these points every once in a while with a smaller stone so that you're not carrying long joints for too long.
Okay. And of course, we reviewed earlier how you've got an inch, inch and a half of the stone dust, and the pieces get put down. Shall we grab another one?
Sure.
They're not, if they're small, they're not too heavy. No, this is not right.
No, it's not going to work because the 4 corners come together here, and
Right.
it really doesn't give a good look. So you're going to want to turn this a little bit.
So you want to turn it the other way. And now, will it actually tamp down that much? There's a
No.
good 1/4 inch difference there, right?
Yeah, once you get it to about 1/8 of an inch, you'll be able to tamp it down with the setting hammer. Sometimes it'll work when you first set the stone in, but Manny has to take some of the material away.
Okay. And one of the things I remember discussing with the landscape architects was the width of our joints in between. And we talked about a pencil width, kind of. And the idea being that I like the effect of the weather and of moss starting to grow in between and stuff as the years go by. And the best way to encourage that is to have a good 1/4 inch joint.
Right. Yeah, if you leave a joint in there, you can set in some stone dust, sweep it into the joint, and you do get moss growing in the joints later on.
Good. That's going right down. Let's pick up another one. How about that big one over here?
Okay.
This way?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, and we've made quite a bit of progress. Now, this gets back to what we were talking about in the plan. What have you done here?
Well, this is a planting bed for the thundercloud plum.
Yeah.
And it's going to be coming in next week, so we had to excavate the hole 4 feet deep, put in loam.
And fill it up with loam, nice
Yeah.
screened loam. Okay, well, we're almost at the end of the terrace, and what are we doing here?
Well, we found a stone that has a bad corner, and we don't want to waste anything, so we're going to use it. We just have to make a cut on it. We can still use the best part of the stone and come back to this joint here and just make this one cut. So,
All right, and is that just a carborundum blade that Manny has there?
yes.
Okay, let's watch. Boy, this is exciting. We've just condensed that, but in real time, it really only took about 2 minutes for Manny to cut right through there. And now it just has to be fitted out a little bit. But we're almost done here, aren't we?
Yes, I mean, we'll be done in about another hour and finish the last few pieces.
The last few pieces that go in here. And then, do we have to add stone dust to the top of it and sweep it around to get it into the cracks?
Yes, after we arrange the joints, we'll sweep in stone dust.
And this should last for centuries, right?
Right.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Okay, we're running out of time. Next week, I hope you'll be able to join us because we're going to be busy out in the landscape again. We're going to be planting this wonderful plum tree and looking at some other material, I hope. Also taking you down to Ambler, Pennsylvania, where we'll be visiting the Burpee Trial Gardens, where they have all sorts of exciting stuff to look at. And inside the house, the kitchen cabinets are in place, so we're going to be talking about installing soapstone counters. Till then, I'm Bob Vila. We're running out of time. It's good to have you home again.